Hey Village! Before we dive in, if you haven't already, hit follow on your favorite podcast platform. It takes 2 seconds, it costs nothing, and it means the world to me. Right, let's go! Hi, I'm Maeva, and this is Raising with the Village, a podcast where real parents share real stories so we can all feel a little more connected on this wild journey of raising children. Today's episode takes us somewhere a little different, not just in location, although we are traveling all the way to Sydney, Australia for this one, but in perspective. Because sometimes the best way to see what we have and what we are still missing is to look at how someone else does it entirely. So today, I'm talking to Nina. And Nina is going to take us through her pregnancy, her birth, and her early days of motherhood. Australian style. Now, I want to be clear. Nina is sharing her experience, her story, her system, her journey. This is not a scientific comparison or a policy paper. But as she was talking, I found myself leaning in further and further, nodding at the things that felt familiar and quietly thinking, why don't we have that at the things that didn't? Things like the standardization of continuity of care, the idea that the midwife who walks you through your pregnancy is the same person who holds your hand in the delivery room. Woo! Things like second parent leave that actually gives families the time and space to find their fit together. Woo woo! And then there is the pelvic floor physiotherapy. Nina saw a pelvic physio once before she gave birth and once after. 2 appointments, that's it. 2. And the results were remarkable. Now, it's not part of the public health system over there. But what struck me is that it seems to just be common knowledge. Something women know to do. Something that is talked about, recommended, passed on. And I couldn't help but think, why is that not the conversation we are having here, as standard? These are not radical ideas. They exist. They are happening, just not always here. Yet. But this episode is not just about systems and policies. At its heart, it's about the universal experience of becoming a parent. The anticipation, the fear, the love that arrives in a way you were never quite prepared for, told through the lens of a woman on the other side of the world, who went through it in her own way, in her own corner of it. There is so much in this conversation that will feel familiar. And there is so much that might just make you think, we deserve better than this. And we do. So, here is Nina. Hi, how are you?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
I'm very good, thank you. I'm so excited to be talking to you today.
Oh, thank you. This is the first time I've been on a podcast, so it's exciting for me too.
All right. Oh, I feel so special now. Thank you. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Oh, yes. Hello, my name is Nina, and I am from Australia.
I like that. It rhymes.
Yeah, my mum was very adamant about that at birth.
It has to rhyme.
How else will I know who I am?
Yes, indeed. Is that your full name then, Nina from Australia?
Yeah, exactly. That is definitely my legal name.
In that case, Nina from Australia, shall we listen to your story?
Yeah.
shall we start actually? Because I think you're going to share your pregnancy story, so that at least for me, I can have a better understanding of what the pregnancy journey and maybe the early months as well are like after you've had a baby when you live in Australia. Am I good with that?
Yeah, of course.
Let's start with the very beginning of the story. And how did you find out you were pregnant? You want to tell me about the beginning of the story?
Yeah, the very beginning. My husband and I had been trying to get pregnant, so it was on the cards, but I had actually done a negative pregnancy test about 4 weeks beforehand, and then I wasn't expecting anything. But then I was actually going to a friend's party, and I knew that there would be cocktails involved. So I thought, I better just do a pregnancy test, just to be safe. And so I was getting ready for the party, I was choosing my outfit, whatever, I was rushing around. My husband wasn't home. I just did the test and I kind of wasn't even thinking about it. I just put it down and I looked at it and it was positive. And I was like, what? And then, yeah, of course, like, duh, like, once I saw the positive test, it kind of made a few other things more apparent to me, like, oh, my boobs did seem like they were a bit bigger. And, other little clues like that. But I was a bit taken aback, even though we had been trying to get pregnant. So yes, I had to call my husband and tell him to pull over because he was driving as well.
What was his reaction?
He was, I was like, I was in like a kind of crazed, excited state. I was like, pull over, pull over. And he's like, what? Apparently our dog had just vomited in the car. It was all very exciting. And then, I was like, I'm pregnant. And he was, I can imagine his face being exactly the same as mine was when I had just found out a few minutes earlier, like shocked, excited, just in a kind of crazy loop.
I love that, and I love the detail of the dog that threw up. Was the dog pregnant as well? Or
Good question. I haven't done a test for her, so yeah, maybe she's hiding something.
at this point, once you've done your test, what what comes next? Do you have to? Well, actually, yeah. What do you do? Do you call a doctor? Do you have to
Yeah.
book an exam? What do you do?
Yeah, the norm is that straight away. So the expectation in Australia is that you'll get it confirmed by a doctor, not just the stick in the box. I booked an appointment for just a local doctor who I could see, obviously ASAP. Um, and yeah, he said he did the test and he said, oh, you're about 6 or 7 weeks pregnant. And I was like, oh, so, it was a bit, again, a bit surprising, but a happy and very, welcome surprise. And then once you sort of done that, they start asking you, so have you thought about where you want to give birth and that kind of thing? And it's all go, go, go. Obviously, it's quite a time sensitive, thing. So, yeah, even though in that moment you're like, of course I haven't thought about what I'm going to do. Well, that was me anyway. I was like, I've only found out I've been pregnant for 4 minutes. So.
So actually, sorry, before we go into that, I was wondering, you said the doctor did the test. What kind of test did they do? Was that a blood test or a urinary test?
I think it was a blood test. It might have been a urine test as well. Pretty much, I don't know what it's like in the UK, but once you are established to be pregnant, you do all number of tests all the time. So if you had to ask me at what point in my pregnancy did I do, a blood test or I give a urine sample or whatever, I'd just say like, all the time, like 20 times. So yes, I'm pretty sure it was a blood test.
Okay.
Yeah.
So at that point, the doctor is like, congratulations, you're 6 to 8 weeks pregnant. And it's at that point that you've got to start thinking about delivery and where you want to give birth.
Yeah, pretty much. So they ask you, oh, have you considered what model of care you'd like to follow? And your options are through like private, public. Then there's like midwife. Then there's something they call GP shared care, which is where you're doing most of your appointments through your GP, and midwifery group practice, which is what I ended up going with.
And so is that because it was more local to you, more practical? What was your thinking there?
The midwifery group practice. I had actually done a bit of research about it beforehand, and also just heard a lot from friends. And the idea of the midwifery group practice is just that you have the same midwife throughout your pregnancy and also at the birth.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, it's a really nice model where you just don't have to explain everything about yourself over and over again. And it's about the continuity of care. And there is quite a lot of evidence coming out that it has the best outcomes for, the mothers and for the babies. So, so I was keen to get into a hospital. Not all hospitals offer it. So I was keen to get in somewhere that offered the midwifery group model.
Oh, that's so cool. And that's part of the public offer?
Yes, exactly. So it's I'm not sure if every hospital has it. I don't think every hospital does, but it's also very competitive. So pretty much the idea is as soon as you find out you're pregnant, you've got to call your local health district and say, I want to be part of the midwifery group practice, and cross your fingers, basically.
Don't worry if you don't know the answer to that, but do you need to sort of tick some boxes, or rather maybe not tick some boxes? Like say, if you have, it's a twin pregnancy or multiple pregnancy, maybe based on age.
It's like the guidelines. I think it is that sort of inverse box ticking where you have to have a low risk pregnancy. Luckily that was I fit the criteria for that, so I was allowed to proceed with that group. And it's based on, I guess another detail to mention is it's based on your geography. So pretty much you have to be within the local area of the hospital, because after you give birth, they also do a couple of home visits to you. So you get discharged from the hospital and that midwife will come and visit you at home. So it's also just about making sure it's convenient for everyone involved.
Oh, it's so lovely. I really like that you are with the same, assumingly lady, midwife from the, well, they are men midwives as well. And they are also called midwives, I think. But
I've never seen one, but I'm sure they're out there.
I think I have seen one. Anyway, it's a story for another time. But I love that you're with the same person from your very early days into that journey all the way to after the baby is born. It must be.
It's not. It's not the very, very beginning, because I think it starts at when you start getting the regular scans, which is, I think it's at 16 weeks. It might be earlier than that. I think it's at 16 weeks. That's when you start having those fortnightly appointments and those kind of get onto the program.
Okay, so before we jump into the beginning of the second trimester, do you want to tell me a little bit about your first trimester? So that's before the midwifery. What happens then?
In the first trimester, you have, I think, there's like certain clinical indicators for whether you'll need, say, I had, so still under the care of my GP, I had some blood tests done, and that was sort of a risk screening thing. So I think because I was 35 or, advanced maternal age.
Do they call it that?
I think that's a new term. It used to be called geriatric pregnancy.
Yeah, grandma mum.
Something equally like, okay, how are you going? But yeah, because I was that age, they do extra screening, and they also test you for things like for preeclampsia and other pregnancy disorders like that because of your I guess the risk presented by your age.
Do you have anything else happening what happens actually during the first trimester? I feel like the first trimester is very much a blur. It's very much about sort of maybe keeping it to yourself and being vaguely sick or quite sick. What was it like for you?
Oh, I forgot to. Yeah, the first in the first, I think it was sixth. Yeah, upon getting the blood test in the very beginning, I also got an ultrasound because they want to, I think, determine the viability of the, zygote. So yeah, there's that first ultrasound very, very early on. And then you get a 10-week ultrasound as well. So, yeah, those were some other things that happened in the first trimester.
Oh, that's cool.
Not that I'm casting my mind back in terms of the medical stuff, yeah.
And what about you personally? How did you feel during this first trimester? What was your state of mind?
The first trimester was, for me, I think the main symptom was just feeling very, very tired, and just like getting home from work and just sleeping on the couch, which is like not, very like my usual behavior. So just having no energy and just feeling like, oh my God, I made it through the day, and just amazed by the phenomenal amount of effort it took just to do simple things. And yeah, I felt pretty, other than that, I felt pretty well. I was lucky I didn't really get morning sickness. Just a little bit when, especially, again, my dog, um, whenever I had to clean up dog poo, that was a real trigger for me, which I guess is like a real a biological signal in your mind to be like, don't go near. But yeah, that was the only thing that triggered my morning sickness. And yeah, I didn't get any cravings, which I was kind of disappointed by because I thought that seemed like a kind of fun and kooky thing about pregnancy. But I just, wanted to eat all of my normal food. So that was pretty boring, actually.
So disappointing.
Yeah, totally. And then it's just, I guess, the element of having to not having to hide it, but like, yeah, I don't know. I guess there's societal pressure in a way to hide it and to not say anything in the early days. Although a lot of my friends and colleagues sort of figured it out anyway, because I guess there's always those signs like that, oh, you're behaving differently from before, or like, oh, you didn't have anything to drink at our Christmas party. Like, that's how I got found out. What's going on?
Party Nina.
Yeah, exactly. And people were like, what are you drinking? And, with that knowing look, and you're like, could be a mocktail. But yeah, I guess no, I had let some friends and family know, but also I think we were keeping it a bit under wraps until a little bit later as well.
We go past this Christmas party apparently, and and then you enter your second trimester. Is that about right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, we'll do that then.
And so then at that point you said that you were getting, you were seeing midwives every other week? or what happens during your second trimester?
Yeah, the appointments do, I'm pretty sure it's every fortnight. It might be, I think it might start as every month and then it switches to every fortnight, like the closer to the birth. But yeah, I think that's how it works. So at first, they're just checking, like the midwives checking your blood pressure, checking that thing where they measure the fundal height of your belly. They're doing those sort of measurements. Yeah, and telling you, it's sort of, I think, an educational opportunity. So they're telling you about, okay, this is how to prepare for the birth, and have you thought about, how you're going to get to the hospital, and who do you have in your home? So they're sort of using this as opportunities to provide healthcare when they can, I guess, which is smart.
That's really good. Yeah, it's really good. So, um, since we're on it, what was your plan? And then we can when we can come back to it when we get to that point in your story to compare the notes.
Yeah, yeah, good question. I was very pro. Basically, one of the first things when I heard about the midwifery group program was like, are they going to let me have an epidural? I really want to have one. Um, and they were like, yes, they were sort of like, oh, you can try other methods. I was like, that's fine. I'm happy to try other stuff, but I want to know, is that going to be allowed? Because sometimes, they can be a bit crunchy or like avoiding those things. But yeah, so that was my plan. I wanted to be, I was scared, I guess, a bit of, the stories you hear, like people saying it's the most painful thing you can ever experience, and just the sort of portrayal I'd seen in like movies and stuff. So I think it's just, and it's thinking about it, it's something like giving birth is something, there's no preparation you can really do that compares to it in any way. It's just like, you're going to do this thing, and yeah, there's no, just one day it's going to happen, and like you have to mentally prepare, but that's about all you can do, really. Like you can eat, what do they make you eat? Dates. You can eat dates, but there's nothing super hands-on you can do.
What's the cultural norm in Australia? Is that quite common to have an epidural, or is that more natural birth, sort of medication free, or C-sections?
Mm.
Or do you know? Do you have any idea about that?
Yeah, yeah. I think so. Both, probably all of them are normal. I know that C-sections are always going up, like they're becoming more and more common. I don't know if that's due to like, the age of mothers is going up, so that sort of necessitates more and more people wanting or needing to have C-sections.
Hmm.
Epidurals are also quite common. I think it's something like 30%, something around that, of women giving birth will go for something like that. And then natural, again, is also fairly common. Like there's no sort of stigma
Mm.
against any of the options, but there, to be fair, actually, there is a bit of a there can be some midwives who are preferring you to go with less pain relief, and might go for more natural birth. So that's why, because I knew about that sort of attitude in my mind, but I was very sure that that's what I wanted. So I was just like, okay, I'm just wanting to confirm that, that's going to be an option for me.
If you go with the midwifery option, do you still retain all of the options? Is that the same as going to a hospital? Can you still have
Mm.
sort of an emergency C-section, I guess, maybe? Or are you cutting yourself out of those options?
Yeah, no, the thing that appealed to me about the midwifery group practice as well is that you are giving birth in a hospital. So, anything that you need is just down the hall in terms of like further interventions. And if you change your mind, yeah, you can have, there's there's a whole hospital's worth of staff and gear ready to help you. So I was sort of reassured by that as well.
Okay. So physically, is that, or at least for your hospital specifically, or your case specifically, was it a one building that was the midwifery and then sort of directly connected to a hospital, or is that physically in the same location?
Yeah, in my circumstances, it was literally in the hospital. It's more just a model of care,
Oh, okay.
but
Yeah.
it's like obstetrician versus midwife, I suppose.
Yeah. Okay.
Versus makes it sound, combat like, but you know what I mean.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Thank you for the clarification. It was just for me. I don't know if anyone else was wondering about that. And then I had another question for you because you mentioned about them, giving you advice, tips, or asking you to start thinking about your options and how you were going to prepare for the birth. Did you sign up to any classes? Do any? Did you do anything to prepare for your birth?
Yeah. So my husband and I did 6 weeks worth of birth classes. I think that's pretty standard in Australia, or at least where I live. And that will be like offered at your local hospital as well. And you're in a group with other people who are giving birth at the hospital soon. So, everyone's kind of nervous and excited and doing practice with that giant gym ball, and sort of you're like swaddling like Cabbage Patch dolls, and yeah, just and giving us like handouts from like 1985, it looked like. But yeah, it was nice actually. We connected with a group of the people who we did the class with. We're still in touch. We're in a WhatsApp group and we catch up sometimes. So yeah, it's nice that we inadvertently made some friends through that as well. Um, and I also I went to a what's it called, like a women's health physio, like a pelvic physio, because I'd had recommendations from other friends that was like a really good thing to have as much knowledge and preparation as you could. So yeah, I found that to be very helpful as well, but that was done privately.
Okay. Okay. Anything else? Any other classes you did, or I don't know, videos you watched, or training?
I not videos. I tried to stay away from videos as much as possible, but I did listen to a podcast much like this, actually, called Australian Birth Stories. And yeah, I just wanted to hear about all the different things that could happen, and like you said, it was super interesting seeing what people had planned for versus what really happened.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well, this podcast is the one that started it all.
Yes.
So we thank them. Great. Okay, cool. So we are in the second trimester at this point. So you're having your all your appointments, and they're giving you tips to prepare for the birth. Anything else that happens at this point that should be noted, or can we move along to the third trimester?
I think at this point, it was like the point, like I still didn't really look very pregnant, so I was still having to convince people that I really was, having a baby in a few months. And yeah, just you have a 20-week ultrasound as well. That's a super exciting one because they do it. They spend about 50 minutes doing it, and really, like, you really see something that looks like a baby, as opposed to just like, the early scans where you're like, I don't know, it looks like a jelly bean. But yeah, the 20-week one, it was, yeah, getting lots of movement and lots of sort of gestures. So yeah, it was exciting to see something was happening. But I found the second trimester,
Very long
very
pregnancy.
chill. Yeah. Yeah, very long. It was very chill for me. That was just like, I was still like going to the gym. I just started modifying, like stopping doing sit-ups or whatever you're not meant to do, like abdominal stuff. Second trimester was like, this isn't so bad, energy's back, hair's looking good.
And did you find out, or did you want to find out, the sex of the baby at the 20-week scan?
Well, we had found out already because of I mentioned to you that I did some testing early on due to my advanced age. So those tests identified the biological sex. And when they called us with the results, they said, "Do you want to know the sex?" I really couldn't resist. So we said, "Yes, of course, tell us." So, they told us. But when they told us, they sent us through this, I'll describe it as like a data sheet, and it was describing the list of chromosomes, and looking at that was like the least clear way. I was just going, what does this mean? Is it a boy or a girl? And eventually we figured out, it's a girl. So that was a super exciting moment once we deciphered the code that the lab had sent through. Like, oh my God, we're having a girl. I thought it would be a boy because my baby was very active, and so many people kept telling me, "Oh, must be a boy," and I just was like, "Yeah, I guess so." But I guess it was just a bit of sexism, because it turned out that she was a very active little girl, not a very active little boy.
Yeah. Well, there you go. Did she turn out to be a very active baby?
Yes.
Well, there you go.
Yeah. Yeah, the evidence was there from the very beginning. But it's funny seeing something like that where you're like, I guess your characteristics were there all along.
And it was very much strongly an active girl. We are for active girls. Woo.
Exactly.
What's it like at work when you are in your second trimester? Is that when you start to have conversations with the time that you're going to go away?
Yeah, I think it was probably for me. I probably said something like fairly early in the second trimester. I think it was around the 20 weeks ish. It might have been, no, I think it was a bit before that. Yeah, it was a bit before that. Um, just having that meeting where you tell your manager, "Oh, I've got some news," and they're like, "Which direction is this going?" But yeah, no, it was the happy direction. And just in Australia, you can, everyone is eligible to take a year of unpaid leave for the birth parent, and then the secondary parent gets, I think, to be honest, I don't know if this is at the discretion of the employer or what, but they usually take a few weeks off. But yeah, typically it's 1 year, and you can extend it to 2 years, I think, depending on your discussions with your manager. But it will be like 1 year of unpaid leave, and then you can get certain entitlements from your own work and from the government as well.
Is that fully unpaid when you are on maternity leave, or is there a part where you do receive a portion of your salary, or how does that work?
So for me, it was the 1 year is basically the year is unpaid. That's sort of like you can take a year off your job. That's the understanding,
Hmm.
and come back. But then you can also get, I think it's around 22 weeks of like the minimum wage. So yeah, that is what is provided by the government. And on top of that, you can get, well, it depends on your employer. But I got, I think, 14 weeks full pay, something like that. And then you can do some, clever things to stretch out the time to sort of cover that year. So, for example, I was taking my annual leave, which I had about 5 weeks of annual leave as well. So I was taking that, alternating 1 week and then 1 week of unpaid to just, stretch it out over time. But altogether, it added up to being just under a year, which was nice.
So, at what point do you start your mat leave, your maternity leave?
You can, I think you can start it something like up to 4 weeks before you give birth,
Okay.
but
Yeah.
I was, because I was feeling pretty good and I wanted to save it for like when the baby was here. So I actually worked up until I think it was about 2 weeks, 10 days, something like that before I ended up giving birth. So now when I think about that and like how pregnant I was at the end, I'm like, wow, that was a lot. But it was what I decided to do at the time.
Yeah. I think that's quite similar in many ways to the British system. But going back to your story, um, I think we can now jump into your final trimester. What was that one like?
Yeah, the final trimester was for me when I really started like feeling pregnant, I guess both in the physical and mental way, because I hadn't really felt, apart from like a bit of tiredness at the beginning, I just hadn't felt that different. I was like, it's just me. Um, and I guess because in the third trimester, though, it was like, oh, I'm getting really heavy. I'm getting really uncomfortable. My feet, like my shoes stopped fitting because my feet were so swollen. So, like at the very end, I was going to work in my UGG boots because I couldn't like wear any of my shoes, which was just crazy. And that was at that point when I was like, okay, I'm ready. I'm ready to give birth now. I've experienced a pregnancy. I get it. I'm like having to do those weird things like the pillow where you sleep on your side and like you're always trying to shift around in bed and just all of those kind of wacky pregnancy things. I was like, all right, I've had
I'm
the
done.
full the experience now. I'm done.
I've done it. I've completed the experience. Let's move along.
I know what it feels like now. Okay, yeah. Ready to have this phase.
And can I ask, did you have a winter baby or a summer baby?
A winter baby.
A winter baby. So just because I find that hilarious because we're not on the same sides of the globe, when when is a winter baby in Australia?
That was July.
So July, I just love that July is a winter baby because here in the UK, July is firmly a summer baby.
Yeah, no, it couldn't have been more wintry, to be honest. And I think now, like knowing how like hot and sort of like what's the word when you're like stumbling around, like just not being able to walk up a flight of stairs without losing breath.
Hmm.
If I had had to do that in the height of summer, that would have been a lot. So, because even doing it in winter was, quite unpleasant.
I love the anecdote, and I hear you. Uh, so, okay, we are third trimester. You are
Mhm.
done with the experience. That's it. Thank you. We've done that. Tick the box. Can baby come out? So, do you want to tell me a bit more about the end of your pregnancy?
Yeah. So I'd started my maternity leave. I was doing all the like meal prep and thinking about, okay, is a hospital bag packed in the birth class? That was something they really emphasized, in bold capital letters, like make sure the hospital bag is packed. And I'd actually, as I've mentioned, I'd been going to my, midwife appointments, and I'd actually noticed that my blood pressure had been going up every appointment. And I was like, hmm, that seems like that could be a risk. But yeah, my midwife was like, "Oh, I'm sure you're fine." Like, I didn't have any of the other, indicators of preeclampsia, but I was like, "Oh, you could really like draw a line in the direction that it's going on a chart." Um, but it was weird because I felt fine, like I'd, swum laps in the pool that morning. But yeah, ended up speaking to a friend of mine, and she was like, "Oh, once you're at term, you can just go into the hospital and say, like, I want to have this baby now. You don't need to sort of wait around." And I was like, "What? Are you allowed to do that?" Because to be honest, that hadn't really occurred to me that you could just you could just decide, like, yeah. I guess essentially saying I want to be induced. So um, yeah, I ended up checking my blood pressure at home because my parents had like loaned me a cuff thing, and it was kind of alarmingly high. So I was like, oh, I'll just go to the hospital. And my husband and I had thought like, oh, they'll definitely just send me home. Like it's nothing. Um, I think we even like hadn't really packed our bag properly because we just thought, oh yeah, the midwives are always just saying that everything's just normal. Yeah, so we ended up going in for what I thought was just a check, and they ended up diagnosing me with preeclampsia and saying, "Oh, you're actually not leaving this hospital without giving birth,"
Mm.
which was pretty exciting and crazy.
So you so did you sort of understood yourself, or maybe not understood, but did you have a feeling that maybe you had preeclampsia because you said that you started checking your blood pressure at home? Is it how were you aware of preeclampsia? Had it been mentioned to you before?
Yeah, it had been mentioned because in that early pregnancy testing that I'd done, there was something in the results that they flagged as like that I had a slightly elevated risk for preeclampsia. So I was taking aspirin as like a preventative thing. But then I hadn't had any of the normal symptoms apart from just, yeah, my blood pressure, which had been like perfectly normal, just going up and up every 2 weeks. And that's why I don't know, my spidey senses were like, I think something's up. Um, and I don't know if it was like, yeah, maternal instinct or what, but it turned out that it was right. So I I went to the hospital and they were like, yeah, you can have a baby right now, which because I'd been dreading the like last 2 months the last like 2 weeks of being extremely pregnant. Because there's that rumor that first time mums always go over. I don't know, do
Hmm.
they have that rumor in the UK?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So I thought, oh, for sure, I'm going to go way over my due date, so on. Um, yeah. But yeah, it turns out that I ended up being induced, so I didn't have to worry about that.
Mm. So you were induced because of the potential that you had preeclampsia, or because you asked for it, or a bit of both?
Um, it was like a clinical recommendation. Basically, I went in, I said like, oh yeah, I've had high blood pressure today. They did a urine test, they did a blood test, and they were like, yeah, you have preeclampsia,
Okay.
so we recommend, inducing pretty much. And I was happy to do that because I was like, let's go. Let's have this baby.
Okay. So you say you were induced. How did they do that? Which option or flavor? I don't know how to say. Which flavor did you get?
Yeah, it was. I liked how like consultative they were. They sort of ran me through the different options, and I ended up going with one called, excuse me, syntocinon. So I think it's like a synthetic oxytocin, and they pretty much sold it to me by being like, "We only have to do this one once," and I was like applied to the cervix once. I was like, "I'll take that one." And they're like, good choice. It's like, excellent. Like I was ordering a Chardonnay or something. But yeah, no, it worked well. They started me on the Syntocinon at, I think it was about 5 p.m. in the afternoon. So that was a nice sort of on ramp, I guess, to the birth, because it was like, okay, we'll just get the process started. My midwife went home to have a sleep. I was able to sleep, till about, I woke up at midnight and took some Panadol or something like that, because I was like, oh, I'm starting to feel a bit of cramping.
Sorry, what is Panadol?
Paracetamol.
Oh, paracetamol. Okay, thank you.
Yes, sorry. So I had a couple of those, and then was able to sleep through till 4 a.m. At which point I was like, oh, I'm really starting to be in labor now. So I cannot sleep anymore.
Okay, and so at that point, you call your midwife back?
Well, I knew that she wasn't going to start, like her round started at 7 a.m.
Mm-hmm.
So I sort of had to just, grit my teeth and wait for 7 a.m. But yeah, it wasn't too bad because it was only, I guess, a couple of hours by that point. And in a way, it was, it was definitely starting. It was all kicking off. So it was a bit exciting for me as well, because I was like, oh, I'm actually in labor right now. Like, it's really happening. And by the time, my midwife got there, I was like, Jen, like, I don't, like, you have to come. And I think she ended up checking me. I think I was like something like 6 centimeters dilated already, something like that by that point. So I was like, oh, good. Okay. Not too much more to go,
And did you get your epidural?
I did, but the anaesthetist didn't start the rounds until 9 a.m. or 10 a.m.
Oh,
So I
dear.
had a few, I know, shame. So I had to tough it out for a few more hours. And there are some funny photos where after the epidural gets, inserted, there's photos like selfies and my husband and I took of like me drinking a Sprite, looking like happy as a clam. And then there's these pics, and then unfortunately for me, the epidural like didn't work properly, or it like worked at first and then it wore off. Not exactly sure what happened, but I'm sure that it stopped working halfway through.
Oh, no.
So yeah, I know. And there
What a
are
letdown.
definitely no photos of that point.
Oh, no. So hang on. So it means that the labor probably started at sort of 5:30 p.m. and you went
Yeah.
all the way to, say, 10 a.m. the next day. And only at that point did you get your epidural, and it still didn't actually work properly.
Well, no, it worked for about 2 hours.
Oh, okay.
And that was awesome, because I'm like, I could definitely notice when it was working. I was like, yep, can't feel anything. I can feel, the pressure. Um, and I know what to do, but I couldn't feel the pain. But then I asked like a anaesthetist friend to explain it later on, when I was like, what the hell happened? Not that he'd had anything to do with it, but I was just like, how could this happen? And he said, yeah, there are some, weird things that can happen where sometimes it's like the dose just, I don't know, something like your your nerve signals need more to overcome the block, or I don't know exactly how it works, but whatever that was, it was happening in my case for sure.
Well, shame. Sounds
Shame.
painful.
Yeah, shame.
Oh.
It was and I had, that thing, the contraction thing they put on your belly to like measure the baby's, to measure contractions and to
Oh,
get
yeah, the
the
belt.
baby's
Uh-huh.
heart. Yeah, the belt. So my husband had been watching the dial on the monitor, and he was just kind of reacting to what he was seeing on the dial, and he's going, rising, rising. And when he was saying that, then I knew I was about to feel like something really, really intense. So I told him, okay, you're not allowed to say, oh my God, and you're not allowed to say rising. And all of the, yeah, all of the midwives were like snickering about that because they're like, oh yeah, these husbands.
What was the birth actually like after all that time? So you're, half off of your epidural dose after it's worked so well for a couple hours,
Yeah.
and then showtime.
Yeah, showtime. So um, it was just that, I don't know, it's a surreal feeling, isn't it? Where it's like, you feel like no time. I remember looking at the clock and thinking, there's no way it's only 10 o'clock in the morning. Like, that's not possible, because I felt like I'd been there for like light years or something. But yeah, looking at the time, just feeling like, no, that's obviously wrong. And another sort of out of body thing was saying later on to my husband, like, did I not, like, was I naked? And he's like, yeah, you were really naked. I was like, oh, was I? Which, like, of course you are, but it's just such a weird thing to be naked in public and not even know or care. So yeah, I guess that I guess that gives you an indication of my state of mind at the time. But yeah, no, the baby was coming. The midwife, there was a few doctors as well, just for that sort of crunch point time, coming in and out, and they were giving me like encouragement. They were telling me, uh, you were born to do this, which I was like, oh, that's a nice sentiment. I can do this. I was laughing in hindsight about the concept of, oh, make a playlist with like whale sounds and stuff, which I couldn't even tell you like what room I was in, let alone like appreciate music. Yeah, but uh, another nice thing, I guess, about, how I mentioned before that I saw the pelvic physio.
Mm-hmm.
She had told me, because I'd heard some bad or like mixed reviews about getting episiotomies, and I wanted to be sort of ready in advance if I was going to need one. So I said, okay, what's your stance like on episiotomies? And she said, well, my advice to you would be, if they tell you that you need one, you should get it straight away, because if you say, I don't want one, and then 20 minutes later they have to give you one, they
Mm-mm.
might not be able to
Fair.
get the angle. Yeah, and they might not be able to get the angle of the incision right. And the angle is the most important thing, like with the episiotomy. So in terms of preventing, like tearing and issues. So with that was her sort of comment, and she was like, look, nowadays they don't just give them out for nothing, like they're very conservative. So I felt reassured and, like, I guess empowered that, okay, if I'm going to get an episiotomy, it's because I know what the risks and the benefits are. And yeah, as it happened, they did need to do one, and they said, are you like happy, like the baby's, it's something, they kept saying the word kaput, whatever that is. So like the kaput is stuck. So yeah, they ended up using an episiotomy, and I was like, yeah, do it. I wanted to get her out. So I was glad that I'd already thought about that ahead of time, because then in the moment, I'd already decided what I wanted.
That's such a good tip. I don't think I've ever heard that before. That sort of, if they suggest that you should go for an episiotomy, it's probably because you really, really need one, but it's their best kind of window to go for it, and it's going to be nice and clean, like literally clean cut.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yes. Yeah, unfortunately, yes, exactly.
that's such a good tip. Thank you for that. Never thought
Yeah,
about that.
I really liked that too. And be- before that too, they gave me a local anesthetic, like an injection, because as I mentioned, the epidural wasn't working. So luckily, they weren't just like Well, with everything else that's happening, what's a bit more? But no, obviously they were like, here, have a local anesthetic. And then, they gave me the episiotomy and she popped out like, I don't know, one push later. So good call, good call.
Wow. We appreciate
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, totally.
Very good delivery. So, now since we are on the episiotomy,
Mm.
baby's out, and we'll come back to that. Congratulations. It's a very active little girl. But what, I don't know if we have to jump forward a bit, but what's the aftercare for the episiotomy?
It was just like not too different, I guess, to general vaginal delivery. So it was, to be honest, I felt the pain to be very sort of mild for that. So it was just like, yeah, cleaning, drying, nothing sort of super unusual, especially when you've just given birth. So, the whole like area is a bit of a mess anyway. So, I mean,
You
I
could
guess
say
I've
that.
never not had an episiotomy, so I don't know what it would be like to not have one. But yeah, I was like, it's all pretty in need of TLC right now. So yeah, I didn't find that. I think I had a couple of mild painkillers the day after for it, but it wasn't too bad at all.
Okay. And then it just
Yeah.
sort of comes back on its own. And I guess maybe your midwife checked it a couple of times
Yeah.
on the home visits.
Yeah, yeah. They checked it, and then I think they must have those, dissolvable stitches or whatever.
Hmm.
But yeah, I didn't have any issues with it. It was just like, and when I saw the incision later on, I was like, oh, that's pretty small. That's fine. Obviously, at the time, I was like, had no idea. It was just like, get the baby out. Ah.
What are we talking about actually? Is that like 10 centimeters or more like what? Or what are we talking about?
It was a couple of centimeters, yeah, but not like as much as 10.
Yeah, okay. Because I have no idea. Yeah, 10 sounds like a finger length. So
That would be quite a lot, yeah.
quite a lot.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for that. Definitely learned that much. Thank you so much. Okay, so coming back now to the birth. So the baby's out and you're happy. What happens after that? Do you do what's it called? Delay cord clamping?
In my case, I actually, yeah, so I gave birth, but I ended up actually having a postpartum hemorrhage.
Mm.
So, yeah, it was all pretty like busy straight away. And they were the staff were like very calm, but also I could tell like they were trying to resolve something, which was the bleeding. So yeah, I think they decided to cut the cord themselves because they were like, oh, let's just. It was they were saying, oh, it's better, for my husband to not, um, get involved at that exact moment because they
Mm.
were sort of dealing with with the bleeding. So
So did you or your husband realize what was going on, or did they tell you after it had been sort of fixed?
no, like I think we did realize because it's a weird. I guess it's a weird thing because you're it's like a weird operation that you're conscious for, so you're just like there watching the whole thing. And yeah, we knew it was happening, but um, yeah, I remember looking at, with the continuity of care, I had the same midwife, for months now. And I remember looking at her and just being like, okay, you know, I'll just keep making eye contact with her and like she'll make sure that I'm okay. And in that moment, I felt like I really had someone I really trusted who I was like, okay, she'll sort me out. So it was like a moment where having the midwife that I really knew really reassured me and made me feel like, okay, everything's going to be fine.
Yeah, I guess that's the real strong benefit of that continuity of care. That you know that your team is not just your partner, but it's also that midwife that knows you, knows your reaction and, and how you behave, I guess, to this, that, or the other. I love how it's really just extending your support team directly in the hospital, in the theatre.
Because a few other faces had like suddenly appeared because like when you're hemorrhaging, they're like, okay, bring in, bring in the gynecologist, whoever.
Mm.
But she was still there the whole time, and it was just really reassuring to be like, okay, my girl's still here.
Yeah. So was that one of those cases where the hospital jumped into the midwifery?
Yeah, pretty much it like converted straight away into normal, like it was the exact kind of situation where you would want to be in a hospital
Hmm.
for, I guess, because that was part of my thinking before I gave birth to was I was like, well, I don't know. Like, I know that obviously historically childbirth has been very dangerous for women. So I wanted to be, near medical care just in case. And yeah, it turns out that, that was very good in my case because, they were able to identify the issue of the bleeding and to stop it. So yeah, I was
Mm.
very lucky that I was in the hospital.
Yeah, no, definitely. Whew. That was an intense delivery.
Yeah.
What
Yeah, and
happens at
it's funny because you're in that moment, but you're like, I also just gave birth, but then you're just also in the middle of this like mini crisis. But you also have a baby.
So what happened to your little girl during that time? Did she go away with the brand new dad?
No, they put her on my chest, so that's one of the things they really emphasize here in Australia is that what do they call it? Like skin to skin.
Hmm.
So as soon as the baby's born, they want it to be, on you. So yeah, that didn't stop them from giving her to me, and yeah, she just was on my chest while all this kind of controlled chaos was going on.
Oh, I love that. I mean, yes, I can't imagine the chaos that you're having your moment with your daughter. You're just meeting with her, but at the same time, everyone is sort of like very active because it's still quite red down below. Uh,
Yes, exactly. So half of your brain is like, oh my God, look at this baby. And the other half of your brain is like, wait, what's going on, guys? So yeah, it was a lot going on in that moment.
Were you able to then, so, assumingly after this is taken care of and you move back into a room, I would assume? Or where'd you
So
go? Yeah.
you move from like a delivery room to your recovery room.
Hmm.
So that was just, I was lucky, even though it was a public hospital, I was able to get a private room. So in this particular hospital, they let the partners sleep there as well. So yeah, it was me, my partner, and our baby. So yeah, we were wheeled off to our room, and then just starting to figure it all out. And they do a lot of tests. I think like for diseases or disorders that can be treated early on. So they do blood like heel prick tests, and they
Hmm.
do all of those sort of normal newborn tests that check their hearing and their sight and all of their senses.
Mm. And how long do you stay in the hospital for?
I think the norm is about one night in a public hospital.
Hmm.
But in my case, I was there for about 5 nights,
Hmm.
and that was because of my complications.
It's probably quite reassuring that, they kept you just to make sure that they don't send you home until you're properly fit to leave the hospital in constant care, I would assume.
Yeah, it was nice because, yeah, it was both for me because I ended up, just having like an iron transfusion, stuff like that. And then also, obviously, it meant that we just had a lot more opportunities to spend time with the midwives who would teach us, okay, what to do with the baby right now when you're a brand new parent and you have absolutely no idea what you're doing in the first couple of days. So, yeah, it was great. In a way, it was great to be in the hospital because, yeah, we got a lot of expert support at the very beginning.
Oh, that's lovely. Can I ask a question? It may sound like a random question, but as I'm sure lots of people have guessed, I have a French accent. So um, I was actually born and raised in France, but I live in the UK. And a big difference is bath time for newborns. Do you give a bath to the baby at the hospital or in the early days before the cord detaches fully, or do you not?
Um, the advice that we got was to not bathe them. So the advice was about like letting the vernix and whatever other matters are on the baby. If you've had a vaginal delivery anyway, it's like helpful for them. It confers some health benefits. Um, yeah, so they just kind of end up having a bit of goop on them for a little while. What is it in the UK?
Very similar in the UK, but in France you tend to bathe the baby really, really early on in those first days. So it's
There
just
you go,
interested.
upending some stereotypes there.
Yeah. So there you go. Well, thank you for that. It was just personal curiosity. I was wondering.
Yeah, no, it's yeah, we're in that camp of like just the baby will come home a bit crusty.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, and speaking of coming home, so 5 days later, you
Mm.
go home. What does it look like? So you go home and your partner is off of work. What does it look
Yeah,
like?
so yeah, he was off work for he had I think 7 weeks of leave due to what he'd sort of, cobbled together and organized. So that was really nice because yeah, I mean, especially because I ended up being in hospital for 5 or 6 days. If he'd had like the standard 2 weeks, that would have been half the whole time, which is, wild.
Mm,
But we at least got to have almost those first 2 months with the two of us, at home, um, co-parenting 24/7. So, yeah, I think it would have been a lot harder if he'd gone back after 2 weeks like they did back in the day.
yeah. So sorry. Just to recap here, so you said 2 weeks back in the days, but your husband was able to stay with you for pretty much 10 weeks. But you said that it's because he was quite clever in how he used his time and planned things at work. What's it like? What's the average, if you know, for the co-parent? Do you know what's the average time that they get to stay with baby after birth?
Uh, I don't know about average, but I know that it used to be much more common for like the father or the second parent to have only 2 weeks. And even probably about 10 years ago, that was probably more of the norm. But now, like more and more, to be honest, though, it's a depends on the employers usually.
Mm,
So more and more employers seem to be providing parental leave for fathers as well. So yeah, I know in our one of our classes that we were in, a lot of the other dads were off for, you know, 10, 12, 14, 16 weeks.
oh, lovely.
But I think, yeah, that's really, really great. But again, I think that was because they were working for employers who had those sort of conditions and
Mm,
not that it's provided by the state.
yeah. Okay. Makes
Yeah.
sense. So it's
Yeah.
it's kind of it can vary, but the tendency is to have more time than less, we'll say.
It's trending in that direction. Yeah, that's what it looks like.
Well, I really like this trend. That's lovely.
Yeah.
It's really nice.
Yeah, wild. The child would need both parents, right?
Yeah. I know. And especially a parent that probably hasn't gone undergone surgery recently.
Yes.
You'd think. Um, cool. So tell me, what's life like? Did it compare to life with your Cabbage Patch baby?
Well, it's funny because um, in the early weeks, I guess, it's such a shift from what you're used to that it's like, oh, they're so radically different from, not having a kid, obviously. But now I have an older baby. I'm like looking back at one of my other friends calls it the potato phase. And I think, yeah, it's true. It's like a totally different way of parenting and like totally different requirements to what it's like now with like a much a 9 month old but yeah, there was a lot of it was the middle of winter for us, so our baby was wrapped in a lot of blankets and onesies and beanies, whatever. And then I watched a lot of the TV show Below Deck. So that was like my escapism, and then just I was exclusive breastfeeding. So yeah, it was a lot. As you can imagine, just a lot of that. But um, I can really see why they call it the fourth trimester, because they really, they can't do a lot in that phase, and they're just like, okay, uh, time for rotating between like sleeping, feeding, or you know, playing. Oh, they don't really play, but change feed food. So, yeah, I think now when I look back at that time, I'm like, oh, that was kind of an easy time, even though I didn't think that at the time.
Yeah. Well, at the time, you were probably trying to remember what your name was. Uh,
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
oh, no, that's lovely. I've loved that. So I think probably my final question, and it could be a bit of a tricky one, so feel free to not answer it. But my final question is, do you think that there is anything that is particularly Australian that you've really enjoyed in your either pregnancy or first, 9 months with baby, or something that you would recommend or other mums in your Australian experience?
Mm. I mean, I think that probably the best things for me were being in the midwifery group practice, which was I guess an Australian you know health system thing. So that was pretty great. Can recommend to any Australian listeners out there. And also just something that anyone could do is going to that pelvic physio. I just thought that was really helpful for me as well. I don't know if that's particularly, authentic to Australia, but yeah, those were probably the best things I did. And then I guess just like in the early mat leave days, I would like often just go and walk my daughter around in the carrier near the ocean, near the beach. I didn't really realize at the time, oh yeah, I can't go in the water with her at that point, because like this was when she was in the potato age. So yeah, just thinking about those things where you're not used to not being at your full normal capacity, and you have this helpless infant with you, but it was still nice being able to walk around by the water. So just getting outside, I guess that would be my favorite Australian experience of the early days of having post birth, having a little baby.
So again, I came up with two questions whilst you were talking. So my first question, again, I'm sorry, I'm obsessed with seasons and weather apparently, but how cold is winter in Australia? Sorry, can we know where you are in Australia?
Yeah, sure. I'm in Sydney.
Mhm.
So the thing is, this is if you like nerdy weather stuff. So the issue is Australian houses are built as if the weather doesn't get cold.
Mhm.
So we have no insulation, but actually really does get cold. So my husband and I have actually set up a bunch of thermometers in our house. And it gets down to like 12, 13 degrees, like inside the house. So like it's quite cold, which is it's just this weird thing where like culturally I think we're like, oh, we don't need it doesn't get cold here, but it so does. Yeah. So that is something we've set up, and sorry, I've lost my train of thought. Oh yeah, that's why our baby girl was wearing all of those layers in the house because it's quite cold.
Mhm. And what kind of temperature do you get outside during winter?
Outside will be like at night it might get down to like the low, like 7, 8, something like that. That's like max low.
Hmm.
And then in the daytime it will be like, teens to low 20s, or that sounds a bit too high. Like probably in the teens, yeah. Now that I
Oh,
think of
that's so interesting. So that's obviously widely different to my experience in the UK, probably maybe other people in Western Europe, because that, well, maybe no, let's keep it to the UK. That pretty much sounds like my spring. Uh,
yeah.
but it wouldn't be that cold in the house. So I guess that's probably where the challenge is to keep baby warm in the house when the weather is um, not freezing cold outside, but definitely cooler.
Yeah, exactly. So, and they're always warning you in the sort of education programs not to overheat them. So you're like, I've got to get exactly the right amount of layers, but not too much. And different generations too, they love adding on an extra scarf and an extra beanie. So yeah,
Extra pair of
it's
socks.
just a bit of a extra pair of socks. So yeah, just a bit of a battle to get them just right. But yeah, we're coming up to our second winter now, so we'll see how we go.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, we are finally here in the UK, coming into springtime. So
I'm jealous.
I'm loving that. So my other question was about pelvic physio. You mentioned in your story that during your pregnancy, you met with your physio. Did you still see your physio after the delivery? Did you have any sort of exercises to retrain your pelvic area?
Yeah, they recommend you see your pelvic physio. I think it's at 6 weeks post birth. So that was So I went and saw her again, and she just sort of checked me out, and gave me the pelvic floor exercises, and just asked me about how I was going with like, oh, what happens when you sneeze, and all those types of things. Yeah. So, and basically, she was like, "Look, I can see this is like it's paying off that you did the training. So doing the sort of pelvic exercises that she gave me pre-birth, she was like that really helped sort of limit the damage during the birth. So yeah, it just really made me grateful that I had done that pre-training as well.
Wow. And what what is that? Is that part of the private healthcare, or is that actually coming together with public healthcare?
No, it was on like a private physio.
Hmm.
So, because I didn't have health insurance that included pregnancy, because that's like in Australia, that's like the top tier health insurance that you can get if you want to have pregnancy stuff included. So I was just paying out of pocket for that, but I only saw her a couple of times, and it was more about like practicing what she told me,
Hmm.
like learning the piano or whatever, like got to do the exercises at home, unfortunately. So it's not just what you're doing, when you're in the office. But yeah, it's just maintaining that discipline.
Yeah. Is that quite common in Australia to meet with a pelvic physio?
I don't think it's necessarily common, but I had just had another friend who had given birth recommend to do it.
Mm,
So I that's where I got the idea from.
great one. Is there anything else that you'd like to share?
No, I think that was that was what happened with feels like a long time ago, even though it was only last year, but I guess a lot's happened since then.
Yeah.
I've just been raising a kid.
Well, you've been learning a lot, you and baby
Yeah.
girl.
Yeah, totally. You're right.
Thank you so much for taking me across the globe. It was a little trip into Australia. It was probably the quickest way to get to Australia. So thank you so much, Nina.
Yeah, no problem. Or no worries, I should say, to be properly Australian.
Fantastic. Thanks so much. Speak to you soon.
Okay, bye.
Bye. Nina, thank you. Thank you for taking us into your world so generously, for sharing not just the practical side of your experience, but the emotional journey of it too. Pregnancy, birth, and those early days of motherhood are universal. And yet, the way we support women and families through them is anything but. This conversation has stayed with me. Not because everything was perfect on the other side of the world, because Nina was honest about that too, but because there are things being done differently, quietly, and effectively that made me think about what we accept as normal here. The continuity of care, the pelvic floor physiotherapy that is simply common knowledge, the leave that gives both parents the chance to actually be there at the beginning. We deserve to have these conversations. We deserve to ask why. And we deserve to expect more. If this episode sparked something in you, share it. Share it with your midwife, your antenatal group, your best friend who's pregnant right now. Because the more we talk about what is possible, the harder it becomes to settle for less. And to every parent listening who navigated pregnancy, birth, and the early days without the support they needed, I see you. And I hope this episode felt like a small step towards the village you deserved. As always, thank you for listening, for being part of the village, and I'll see you in the next episode. Raising with the Village will now be released every other Thursday, giving me the space to keep bringing you thoughtful and honest conversations. You can find all past episodes on Spotify, Apple Podcast, Amazon Music, YouTube, or wherever you usually listen. And you can follow the show there, so new episodes land straight into your feed. If you'd like to get in touch, share feedback, or suggest a story, you can find me on Instagram at Raising with the Village. I always love hearing from you. And if this podcast has resonated with you, one of the best ways to support it is by subscribing, rating, leaving a review, or sharing an episode with someone who might need it. It truly makes a difference and helps these stories reach the people who need them most. Thank you for being part of the village, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.